Hello there, welcome back to another video. My name is James and today it's time to continue more on our series of the books of the Bible. Today we will be looking at 5 more books, continuing on from where we were last week. Now if you haven't already heard it, this is based on the song that we learned lots and lots of years ago in church, and now we're learning it again now, that help you remember all of the books of the Bible. So if you haven't already heard it, go back and listen to that first. I'm sure you can find it on the channel. And once you've listened to that, come back and we'll continue this week's, starting with Proverbs. So once again this week, we're going to be having these sort of 1 or 2 word little summaries for them to help you try and remember which each book is about. And for Proverbs, our word is wisdom. Now, the Proverbs were made up of lots and lots of statements by King Solomon. You may remember him from being talked about before, and he was perceived as being very wise. Now, these statements from King Solomon essentially explain the many different ways that God sets out for us to live a life for him. How to live a wise and godly life. Now they cover a huge array of topics. I've got a list here from wisdom to foolishness, from justice and vengeance, and then laziness and work, poverty and health, and many, many more. So it covers a very, very big scope of different bits and pieces. And these can be used however much we think we know about the Bible and our walk with God. They can all help us to live more for God and to go through them. And I read something very interesting about them, saying that however far you are through your walk with God, you can always make it so these can be worked on throughout your life. They're never, you're never truly perfect at them. Brilliant, bus going past, good. Right, yes, so Proverbs can be useful however far you are through your walk with God. So that's really, really awesome. Now our next book is Ecclesiastes, and our word for that is vanity, or it could also be meaningless. Vanity or meaningless, you'll see why in a minute. Now that's because this book is sort of about the fact that we will find emptiness in a life without God. I'll say that again, we will find emptiness in a life without God. Now, the author of it, widely considered to be King Solomon, enjoys power and wealth and essentially anything they could want. If you think about something you'd really want in life, they had that here. So they had sort of everything worldly that they could want, he had. Now, what he does is says that all of these things without God are meaningless or are vanity. He uses the verse, vanity, vanity, all is vanity, or in another version, meaningless, meaningless, all is meaningless. And this essentially means that whether the world says all these things are brilliant, maybe all the money, or all the fame, or lots of possessions, but what the author here is saying, that this isn't true. Without God, these things are meaningless. Now, essentially, all boils down to the fact that the ultimate satisfaction comes from God and not from the things of the world. Now, next book is Song of Solomon, and the word I've got for this is love. And it is essentially that. It's all about love, this book. It's mainly about the love within marriage, but we also get to see God's love. Yes, God's love for us and for his people. And this is seen through lots of imagery and sort of poetry as well. But yeah, mainly about love, that one. And then now we move on to the prophets. Now a prophet, if you don't know, by definition is a person regarded as an inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God. So we'll learn about some prophets in a minute, but yes, it's somebody who is not that it sounds like they're sort of predicting the future, perhaps, but it's not them predicting the future. They are doing it through the will of God. It's God telling them these things. They're not just guessing them. They're not sort of flipping a coin, heads or tails, and working out which one is which. No, this is God telling us through the person that he speaks through in this case. So the prophet we're going to be looking at first is Isaiah. And this again is going to be split into two words, because you could almost split this book in half, and it's going to go groan and then glory. And these are two very, very different things, and you'll see why in a moment. So this book is full of loads and loads of prophecies. So like we said before, it's God speaking through a person. Now this is in the first 39 chapters. It's full of lots and lots of talk about God's holiness and righteousness and justice and the role of God in then a world full of terrible sin and how we as people deserve to be punished. And you sort of think that's the groaning side of it. It's a pretty bleak outlook that because we've sinned, like we may have learned before, because we've sinned, we do not deserve to have a relationship with God. That sin separates us from that relationship with God. But what we get in the last 27 chapters is glory, is good news, because it prophesies that as we see in the New Testament, there will be a Messiah, Jesus, and that he will come as a saviour to die on a cross and to save humanity from their sin. So it goes from the groaning of us being in sin and being apart from God because he is so perfect, but it then moves to glory, where we see that there's going to be a saviour, that will be Jesus, and that he will die on a cross to save us from our sin so we can be in a relationship with God again. Now, next prophet, Jeremiah. Now this is going to be a strange sort of set of words. It's going to be rotten sash. Rotten sash. I'll write that on the screen because you might not be able to tell because it's quite a weird word. A sash is sort of something you wear around you. I'm sure your parents will be able to describe one. I unfortunately don't own a sash, so I cannot show you. But it's like a sort of banner you'd wear around you. Maybe you've seen them on birthdays or something like that. But essentially, Jeremiah is an autobiography. Now, you may in school have learned what an autobiography is essentially somebody telling their own story. So a biography is somebody else telling somebody's story, and an autobiography is somebody telling their own story. Now, Jeremiah, again, has been told things by God. Oh, one moment, there's a bus outside. We'll just wait for that. Good news, people look to be suitably socially distancing. They're wearing their face coverings. Very good. It's on its way. Good. Right, where was I? Yes, Jeremiah was told by God that the land of Judah was not living as he would like. They were doing many, many things wrong. And the way he illustrated this was, we'll see now, the rotten sash. So what he did, Jeremiah had a sash and God said, go and bury it next to in the mud next to a river. Now, when he dug up that sash, it was all horrible and rotten and it was ruined. And that was a metaphor. You may have learned about metaphor in school, but that was a picture of what the nation of Judah looked like. It was ruined and it was disgusting and horrible because they were in sin, the same as this was in the mud. These were in sin. And so Jeremiah showed the people of Judah this, but instead, maybe before we've seen the people say, oh yes, God's right here, but instead of listening to him, they didn't. The people rejected God and rejected Jeremiah, and we sort of see throughout it that Jeremiah witnesses lots of his prophecies begin to come true, and we will be hopefully seeing some of them come true next week. About sort of the fate of Judah and what happened to them when they didn't listen to God and they ignored God. Now, that is all I've got time for this week. I do hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learned a little bit more about Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah and Jeremiah. And hopefully I will see you again very soon. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like more to watch, there's been loads of stuff in previous weeks. I doubt you remember all the stuff that was talked about all the way back in March last year. So please do go back and watch those videos if you're looking for something else to watch. And also don't forget to listen to that song. Get it really stuck in your head, sing it around the house, make sure your parents or your carers know it as well. And then everybody in the house will be singing it. It'll be awesome. And hopefully you can sing it when you come back to church as well. I imagine Tom and Stephen will give you some form of prize for it. Yeah, they can give you a prize. That'll be fine. And that's all I've got for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.